Welcome to A Pair of Bookends, the book club you can carry anywhere. I'm your host, Hannah MacDonald, and I'll be bookending the conversation with some of the most exciting voices from the bookish world. Hello and welcome to another episode in our debut Spotlight series where we shine a light on the freshest authors and their work. Today that spotlight is on Charlotte Paradise and her debut novel Overspill, which is out now in paperback. Charlotte Paradise is a disabled author, screenwriter and sewist. She has an MA in writing for stage and broadcast media from the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama. Her first play Mess was performed at the Warwick Arts Centre in 2017. Her debut short film Chronic visited festivals in 2022 and was nominated at BIFA qualifying film festival Little Wing. Her dark comedy drama short film Sleepyhead world premiered at the BFI London Film Festival 2023. It won Best British Short Film at Leeds International Film Festival and the Innovation in Craft Award at Superfest Film Festival alongside 4 other awards. It's also been nominated across categories including for Best Writer. Sleepyhead was selected at multiple BIFA and BAFTA qualifying film festivals in 2024 and received a special mention at 225 Film Club. Her debut novel Overspill tells the story of Sarah, who is 25 and living in London with her best friend Angie. While Sarah has a vibrant and fun friendship group, she doesn't live that wild, reckless London lifestyle, mostly because her mind doesn't allow her to. A mind that is always racing, always full, always ferocious. Sarah begins dating Miles, and while Sarah desires Miles, she knows the limits of her body, a body that resists touch. Even attempting to use a tampon has been known to send Sarah into a panic attack. Overspill is a compelling, raw and moving novel of pain and pleasure, self-acceptance and love in its many forms. A story that asks, how do you love someone when you feel like your body is not your own? Here to discuss her new novel with me, welcome Charlotte to A Pair of Bookends.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be here.
I am so excited to chat to you. I have been completely immersed in the world of your book and have been really eager to chat to you about it. So thank you so much. Before we dive into your book, though, I do like to start by asking what you're currently reading.
I'm reading Strange Girls by Savat Haseen. I've got it
I'm
with
hearing so much about this.
right next to me. There it
Gorgeous
is.
cover, isn't it?
It is that cover. That cover's so good. And I think just because it's also got, I mean, the cover is enough to make you want to pick it up, isn't it? But
Yeah.
the blurbs as well, like blurb by Lucy Rose and Julia Armfield, two people whose tastes I would definitely bet on. I'm excited. Yeah, I'm not that far into it, but it's great. I'm also reading it because I'm about to start writing something about a friendship breakup and like reunion of that dynamic, and so this is perfect.
Love that. That sounds right up my street, the friendship breakup. I'm always discussing those. So, yeah, I feel like they're more brutal sometimes than a romantic relationship.
Definitely can be, and so underrated or underestimated.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to get into you and your journey before we dive into your book. So I wonder what it has been like in terms of the road to publication for you. And then I'd like to ask about how your relationship with the book has changed since publication.
So my way into getting a book deal is slightly untraditional
Mhm.
in that I applied for a scheme that HarperCollins were running
Right.
for underrepresented, so minority voices and people who didn't have an agent. So I sent off 3 chapters to them, a cover letter and a relatively short synopsis, and they emailed me back, which I wasn't really expecting, and were interested in buying it. Now, I'd only written about a third of the book.
Oh, wow.
So I sent them a couple more chapters and they gave me a book deal. So I signed on what they call a partial, which is when you sign a book deal and you haven't written the full book. I also didn't have an agent. So that was like being thrown very much into the deep end of the world. And yeah, that's how I got here. It's the first book I've ever written as well.
Oh
So
my gosh.
I've been writing my whole life since I was very,
Yes.
very small, putting on plays on the weekend and creative writing competitions and all that kind of thing. But I'd never attempted to write a full novel. So my first attempt at writing a book was under contract with HarperCollins, which is a little bit mad.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah. It feels incredible and it feels surreal. I feel incredibly lucky and all of those things. And also there's pressure that comes with that and a lot of the unknown and writing about very tough subjects. It's just a
Yeah.
real tale of difficult things, which I think makes me potentially feel even more proud of the book than I would have been otherwise, maybe, or just maybe in a different way.
I mean, you should definitely be proud of this book. Also, speaking of covers, the cover of your book is so good.
I'm so glad you
I
like.
love it so much. My friend Emma is always saying her and her husband are always laughing at me because they say that any kind of book cover that has like a face that's like half covered or anything like that, I am gravitating towards in the bookshop.
That's the thing.
So
Fiction about women does tend to have a lot of women with covered faces on the front.
I love it. I love it. I can't get enough.
Good. I'm glad you like it.
I want to ask you about, because obviously you just mentioned there, and I mentioned in my intro, that you have written short films, you also wrote a play. I'm sure there's been other things as well, but I wondered how, specifically in terms of being a screenwriter, how you feel your experience as a screenwriter informs your writing as a novelist and sort of vice versa.
I find that they are so inextricable for me. I think because my ideas always come visually first, whether that's for screen or whether that's for prose and for books. So sometimes people ask me, how do you know when when you get an idea, how do you know if it's a book or a film or a TV show or a short film? Like, how do you know? And the answer is I don't, unfortunately. It's very annoying because when I write a book, I see it on screen. So I think that screenwriting impacts my novel writing more than the other way around.
Okay.
Because when I'm writing and when I'm reading, actually, I know that there are people when they read, they don't see things. They don't like see the book in their head. I'm very much seeing everything.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and so when you're writing scripts, you need to be able to visualize what's happening. It's just a blueprint for what's going to be on the screen. And I kind of do the same thing when I'm writing books. Also, when you write screenplays, you have to be very precise. Like you have to say as much as you can with as little words as possible.
Hmm.
And I think that some people have said that my writing in Overspill can come across a little bit blunt,
Okay.
quite to the point. The sentences are quite like they get to it. And I think that is because of screenwriting.
I don't know if that's an unfair observation that people have said that it comes across as quite blunt, because I think I enjoy dialogue like that. I don't know.
Yeah, the thing is, I think this is actually something that I've been talking about the last couple of weeks. I think I automatically assume blunt to be like a negative thing. But
Yeah, yeah.
I think directness and bluntness can be great in life to just getting to the point and also great in books. But yeah, people want different things from books and dialogue
Yeah.
in general, don't they? And I think that in this one, the dialogue can be quite, it's both to the point and short, and people starting to say things and not saying things, as well as like
Yes.
completely not direct and all these misunderstandings and people not communicating. So
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
both at the same time, I think.
There's so many misunderstandings, so much miscommunication going on, and we will get to that. But in terms of us speaking about your screenwriting, I told you that I watched your short film Chronic, and I thought it was such a beautiful short film, and it's this incredibly raw and moving portrayal of living with chronic pain, chronic illness. And I wondered what it was like sort of representing that experience in written form with Overspill.
Oh, thank you so much for watching Chronic.
It's
That was
so good, honestly.
the first short film I ever made, and it has a very special place in my heart. This is going to sound a bit wild, but I don't think I realized that I was writing that in Overspill. I didn't realize that I was writing about physical chronic illness or
Yes.
chronic illness. As someone who is disabled and chronically ill, I think that it will always find its way into my work because my disability affects absolutely every single second and everything that I do. So it's obviously going to affect not just the way that I write, but what I write. But I didn't realize that's what I was doing. And I think it's because I had this naive understanding maybe of mental health that I think a lot of us do, which is that
Hmm.
even in the way that we structure our medical world, we separate the mental and the physical. But what is our brain? Our brain is physical body. So they actually can't be separated. And I think that's what a lot of the book is about. Sometimes you write and you don't know what you write. So going back to your question earlier, actually, which I realized I didn't answer, which is how my relationship with the book has changed with it
Yes.
into the world. You don't know what you write. And so you have to let go of it when you publish it. You have to be like, okay, there's the book that exists for me, It's all in the writing process of it. And then the book that it's not just a book that's on the shelf, it's the
Yeah.
book, the thousands of different books that are in each person's hand, because you don't know everyone is going to receive it differently.
This is
And
true.
in not knowing what you're writing, sometimes that you get it reflected back when you publish it or people read it. So then,
Mm.
question like, oh, so how was it writing about chronic illness? And I'm like, how was writing about what? I did
That's
what? What did I do?
That's crazy that you didn't. Yeah, I mean, she spends so much of this book, experiencing that pain, but I don't know, maybe because that's a part of your everyday that it's just, I don't know. I wondered how you.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's it. I think the answer is that it's so instinctive to me to
Yes, yeah.
life and living in a body and existing with pain, because I don't know any different. And
Yes,
that's been that way for 12 years, that just happened. And obviously she has trauma that she's living with.
yes.
And that to me is like the primary issue that she has.
Hmm.
But there are secondary issues that come because of that. For example, the vaginismus. She has
Yes,
a condition where her muscles are involuntarily contracting. And it is so much about, the book is so much about that. But
yes.
for me, it was always about the trauma and not about physical chronic illness.
I also think that vaginismus, I think this is the first time I've read about it in a book, which is
Also,
crazy.
that to me, yeah. It
Yeah.
is. Yeah, it is. I think patriarchy. And also, we're just very uncomfortable talking about taboo things, which is
Yeah.
why, which I think I'm drawn to when it comes to stories. Like, I'm just like, what is art and what is writing and what are books, if not a place to talk about the things that we maybe are uncomfortable about, or
Mhm.
a way that we can create empathy for people who we're kind of keeping hidden, or experiences that we're not facing head on.
Is
And
it?
vaginismus is one of those things. Anything to do with the female body is always like taboo, or
Yeah.
like about tampons. So the first chapter, that's why the first chapter is just straight into putting a tampon in.
Straight in with the time. And to be fair, so many women experience that. So many people experience that. I found the sort of exploration of period products really fascinating. So that was a conscious thing that you wanted to explore.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think many people are aware how difficult it is to use certain period products for people.
And so many people,
So many
why
people.
are we not talking about it? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Why are we ignoring
Yeah,
this?
yeah. Yeah, it blows my mind that it's people are saying it's the first time they've come across vaginismus in a
Yeah,
book.
yeah.
I feel proud of that. I feel proud that
You should.
in conversations, yeah.
Yeah, you should feel proud of that. I mean, like you said, it is the patriarchy because why are these subjects so taboo when half the population is affected by this?
Come on, seriously.
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
I want to ask you the dedication at the start of the book is for those trying to grow around the grief. And I wanted to know what you meant by that.
Okay. Oh, I love that you've asked this question. I don't know that I've got really to talk about the dedication before, and it's something that's means a lot to me. I think that we want, whether you are someone who has PTSD or mental health conditions, or whether you are someone who loves or knows someone who does, we want to believe that there is a way to fix it, a way to delete it from our lives. I think a lot of people show up to therapy being like, okay, I'm here, let's fix the problem. I'm willing to work hard, but let's fix it. And the really, really devastating, hard hitting truth is that when you've experienced abuse, you can't just drag it into the trash file on your laptop and delete it from your brain and stop it from affecting your life and your body.
Yeah.
There is hope, which I hope you can feel at the end of the book.
Hmm.
There is hope that there are tools, so that they call it the window of tolerance is wider, that you're not triggered as quickly, that the symptoms aren't repeated as much every day or every week. And at the same time, it's all about learning to live and survive and thrive with what has happened. And one of the first steps to that, I think, is facing the grief, which is brutal. The grief of that fact that you can't just get rid of it, and
Yeah.
you can't go back in time and make that thing not happen to you. And that grief really is what so much of the book is about. And you can grow around it. It may never go, but you can grow around it. And I know that there are so many people who are at the very beginning of that journey, in the middle of that journey, maybe people who have grown around it. But I wanted to treat this story so sensitively. And so much of that was having survivors in mind the whole way through. And so dedicating it to people who have survived abuse and trauma and that are just trying to grow around it is why that dedication is there.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful dedication. I really liked that you wrote that, but I think it's such an interesting thing in terms of trauma and how much of a long journey it can be, and kind of grasping those labels and feeling like, oh well, is that really what I experienced? Does that label actually belong to me? Like it's really uncomfortable sometimes to sort of reckon with those things. And I think, there's grief in that as well, is that there's obviously the person that you were before the fact and the person that you are after, and then the person after is ever evolving because you're constantly learning new things about how that thing has affected you. I don't know if I'm articulating this very well, but
No, you are. And that's actually why I never had her receive an official complex PTSD diagnosis in the book, because I think that it's unrealistic. And also, so much of the confusion can come from self-doubt.
yes.
And this tension and battle between knowing that something doesn't feel right, but really not knowing what that is, then feeling like something's really, really wrong, but it's also not bad enough to anything about. And all of these this like grey area that's very, very uncomfortable for the vast majority of us, especially when it comes to trauma.
Yeah.
And it just causes more anxiety. And Sarah has to face a lot of those feelings of, am I making it up? Am I lying? Trying to figure out what it is and where her symptoms are coming from and all of that stuff. But I think in not having a diagnosis, it is much more realistic.
Yeah.
And it also makes it harder because she then has to find a way to believe herself.
Yes.
And to honor her experiences and to meet herself where she is, which I guess is part of why there's a lot of like inner child stuff. So meeting herself where she is, but also meeting her inner child. I think that's probably another way in which my experience with chronic illness and disability has like crept in that I was undiagnosed and misdiagnosed with my physical conditions for about 8, 9 years or something like that. So I know very much that experience of being like, something is wrong, but no one can tell me what's happening. And even if they can tell me what's happening, it's all these very like maybes and you've got symptoms of, rather than just giving me the piece of paper.
Yeah, I saw this girl share something yesterday that was like, when you go into a doctor's office and you're explaining your symptoms and they're like, oh, don't confuse your search on Google with my 10 years of medical knowledge. And she's like, don't confuse your 30-minute appointment with me with however many years I've lived in this body.
Yes, thank you. That's so good. Yeah, I had an experience in 2020 where I was having very severe migraines and I was like day 10 into a horrific one and I managed to like crawl myself to this doctor's appointment and I met this GP that I hadn't met before and he took my heart rate and he was like, oh, it's a very high heart rate. Just very casually. And I was like, okay, this is interesting because every time I've come to the GP and they've taken my heart rate, everyone's been like, wow, that's very high. Do you think that could be linked to what might be going on? And he went, oh, no, you're probably just nervous because I'm a male doctor and you haven't seen me before.
What?
We then proceeded to air quote anxiety and depression. And then 2 weeks later, I was diagnosed with an autonomic nervous disorder, which is connected to lots of other conditions, which causes the migraines. So lots of experiences of that, which I guess Sarah will relate to, but it's very much the premise of my second book, which is about misdiagnosed hysteria in the 1850s. So
I have seen you posting about this, and this sounds so good.
a lot of the rage of that mixed with my absolute love of historical fiction and period dramas has kind of collided on that one.
I am so ready for this. And I know that my friend Emma that I mentioned before, I know that that will be right up her street. She's
Oh, I love
a
that.
historical fiction writer. So yeah, I feel like that is just like the perfect book for I'm going to
Oh,
be having to get her a copy. I think there is so much that I want to get into, but I think it would be good for us to start with Sarah, your protagonist. And there's a quote that I really loved that is, she's a good girl, a label she's had clipped to her ear since she was a child. She knows how to behave and how to deny the things she craves, but they never cease, only mutter at different volumes over flat whites, up-and-coming bands and rare karaoke. Her desire to love fiercely and impolitely prevails too, even if the veiny hands, hard backs and hips conjure anxiety as well as yearning. So I'd love if you could tell us a little bit about Sarah and what life is like for her. I feel like we've touched on it a little bit. Yeah, I'd love to hear how she came to you.
so Sarah is a 20-something optician living in North London who was in a relationship during university and who lives with her best friend in London. And she's kind of adopted her best friend Angie's friendship group and always feels on the outside
Yeah.
of everything. She's not quite enough and yet too much. There is a lot going on in her head. She's a bit of a swan. She kind of looks fine on the surface, but underneath everything is going literally maybe mad. And she's someone who has felt like she's had to play the role of the good girl, as it says there. She's just known that she's felt like that forever. She has to be a certain person. And she kind of looks at this arty friendship group that she has, and she's like, oh, they're all so free. Everyone just seems so free. And I feel so the opposite of that, so trapped and claustrophobic in my mind and my body. And so her journey really is kind of trying to figure out who she is. She still has these, she's performing something she feels like she has to perform rather than performing her authentic self. And at the same time, there are glimmers of really deep wants and desires that she has in her life. So like in that quote, she wants intimacy and she wants love and a romantic relationship with somebody. And that isn't something that she is ready to give up on, but she just doesn't know what that looks like. So that's where we meet her at the beginning.
I really wanted to ask about her job as an optician. What draws Sarah to that career path?
Okay, the very honest truth of why I decided that she should be an optician is because I went to an optician's and I just found the whole thing really interesting and fascinating. There was a receptionist at the optician that I went to, and she was actually causing a lot of issues, and the reviews online were really entertaining about her. She was the opposite of conflict averse, so like the opposite of how I imagine Sarah. And I just ran with it. It's one of those things, it's like when you test a character's job out, it's either going to work or it doesn't work. So actually it came to have lots of meaning. So obviously it's about seeing, and a lot of her journey is about trying to see and understand what has made her who she is, and also trying to see her authentic self, and also trying to experience the intimacy of truly seeing someone else that you may fall in love with or see romantically. I did have to do some work in the redrafts where I kind of explained it, because she seems maybe like she's someone who would choose the artistic route or maybe have a different kind of job, but in her playing the role of the good girl, she was good at biology.
Yeah.
Understood something about biology at school. And if you're good at something, in Sarah's mind, you just chase it and you just commit. And also she's someone who loves to help people and to be of service. And the idea of kind of being in a kind of medical setting. I think, less than having to be so physically close to people all day, every day, which he massively regrets and is very confronting for her when her trauma is flaring up.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting, the way that you kind of connected between her being the good girl and then her seeing herself as giving this service to people and being able to sort of do good. I've always thought that I very much have that kind of good girl complex. And I've had it since I was young. And, you know, it's something that I really struggle to shift. I don't like conflicts. I don't like causing any issues. I even, you know, I spiral if I have to like message a boss to like ask for time off, or to like, you know, anything like that freaks me out. And it makes so much sense that I've spent so much of my life in like customer facing roles. It's like no wonder I'm perfect for it. It's because I just want to please people.
Performing, I know. Yeah.
God, I feel like this is a therapy session for me. I really want to ask about Angie. I absolutely adored Angie, and
Oh, I love Angie.
she's amazing. But I'd love to know about their friendship and how Angie became, you know, the central figure in Sarah's life.
So Angie very much is not based on anyone. Her character is very different to anyone that I know. But I am so, so lucky to have met a best friend at school when I was 15. So I know what it's like to do quite a long journey of friendship with one specific person who you adore and who you know adores you. And that doesn't mean that things aren't tricky and that conversations aren't hard and that there aren't certain things that you avoid. But I think the book is about lots of different kinds of love. It's obviously about romantic love and all of the learning in her relationship with Miles and all of their attempts at intimacy. And that's very central to the book. Also very central to the book is the self-love that we've talked about, not the kind of artificial plastic kind of like bubble bath self-love that we're sold.
Because that'll solve all your problems, Charlotte.
Your problems. But that's a very raw, uncomfortable, painful, grief-filled self-love journey that Sarah has to go on. And then there's friendship love. And like we said earlier, with stories about friendship breakups, it's so underestimated how painful that can be and how central friendships and how important that kind of love is in your life. And also, she acts as a bit of, I guess, a foil for Sarah because she's living a very different life. She's very sexually active.
Mhm.
She's queer, so she has maybe a different understanding to Sarah on the kind of traditional PIV sex.
Yes.
And I think that that's really, I wanted their friendship to be a very safe place for her,
Yeah.
even if it doesn't always feel safe.
Mhm.
It's very safe. And Angie is very open-minded in a way that is very helpful and confronting for her.
There's a really beautiful intimacy between them, and I think, there's a moment where I think she sits outside the bathroom to help Sarah feel safe, and then, she's quite literally like picking her up off the kitchen floor when she's, sort of feels like she's fallen apart, and so it's just really beautiful, their closeness. But just you saying then about, you reminded me of the moment where she sort of tells Sarah off for this hierarchy of sex that Sarah has.
Yeah,
And
too right. Go on, Angie.
yeah, fair, but I'd not really I don't think I'd ever really deeped that. Like, why do you think people fixate on penetrative sex being the sort of be all and end all?
Oh my gosh. Uh,
Such a big question, sorry.
Yeah, I feel like we need a sex historian here, because it's decades and decades and
Yeah,
centuries of history of how we understand sex and penetrative sex, and really, it's kind of like at its base level, like supposed to be, especially for women, a way to reproduce.
yeah,
Like pleasure is taken out of it in history so long ago, and it's just for men to get off in a very specific way and to reproduce. And whilst we may have moved on in lots of ways now, obviously,
have we?
there are lots of ways in which we haven't. And I think that
Yeah,
it's just disguised and molded into something else. But really, women's pleasure is not prioritized.
no, we don't deserve it.
No, the understanding of sex is very within straight dating, very just PIV focused.
Yeah,
Everything else is kind of relegated to foreplay. And even foreplay, I find a very interesting word
mm.
because it's before the real play. It's like how I
Yes,
in my head. But why before that? Why is it not? Yeah, that's the whole thing. And yet I also think very homophobic.
yeah,
So very patriarchal, very misogynistic, very homophobic understanding, narrow-minded thinking of sex equals PIV. And it's just not the reality for lots of people.
yeah, it's
And
not.
I love that Angie is, I guess, offended. She offends her. And
Yeah,
she is rightly offended.
hmm
And Sarah is very flustered and very regretful about the fact that I think she says she apologizes for dismissing
hmm
her experience of sex. And we just dismiss things by deciding what's the like quote right way to do something. Like with talking about tampons, we
hmm
just dismiss talking about period products, we dismiss talking about vaginismus. We want to sweep everything under the rug and not talk about the trauma because it's easier that way. It's actually not easier for anyone,
No, it
none of
doesn't
it.
help anybody.
So I didn't feel comfortable having a conversation, like writing a book about sex and vaginismus and
Hmm
penetration without also talking about other forms and other ways of having sex. Also, because as a straight woman, Sarah is trying to navigate how she can have romantic love when touch triggers her
Yeah,
and what it would actually mean for her if she were never able to have that type of sex.
hmm
Does that mean, for example, that she'll be a quote virgin, which is another word we could talk about forever and ever, her whole life,
yeah.
and what that means? And will she never be able to satisfy a male partner? Because there is this idea that that's kind of the expectation, and that every man would expect or want that in a relationship. And sure, absolutely, of course, there will be those people who do want that, but there are also maybe others who don't.
Exactly. We've not really spoken about Miles, which is
That-
this relationship. I think you've also referenced like normal people when you've been promoting the book as like this is similar in the sense that, this is, I don't want to give any spoilers, but it's a gorgeous relationship. There's so much intimacy in there, but there's also so many miscommunications, there's so much frustration, there's avoidance, There's a lot going on with these two. And as we've, just been talking about sex, desire, intimacy, they're all big themes in this book. I wondered how you approach writing about those themes between characters like Miles and Sarah. We have Miles, who has a very strong Christian upbringing, so he's obviously living with that sort of deep-seated guilt when it comes to those things. And then obviously with Sarah, she associates those things with trauma. So how do you sort of grapple with that?
Not easy.
Yeah.
It's a funny mix of not easy because they're difficult, sensitive, very tender topics to navigate, but also they make sense together. Shame
Yeah.
and intimacy make sense together as two themes because they are always in conflict.
Yeah.
And we understand shame as a desperate fear or inability to truly be seen because of feelings of unworthiness and guilt. It means there's a lot of hiding, like a lot of hiding. And when you put that with themes of intimacy and sex, which is all about unclothing and being seen, and of course, which is actually a quote in the book. Oh my, I'm going to badly paraphrase myself here. But she says she knows that you can be touched without wanted and touched without being truly seen. Of course, but the kind of intimacy that Sarah yearns for and craves is the kind of physical intimacy when there's that emotional intimacy of being able to undress, not just physically, but also metaphorically.
Yeah.
And he has his own shame,
Yeah.
which I think is really important. And there's the tension between both of them having desire to be with each other and how that desire makes them feel guilty in different ways. For him, he is having to deal with the guilt that he feels of wanting to physically be with his girlfriend and her not being able to. And what does he do with his desire when it doesn't feel reciprocated? So it is reciprocated from her because she wants that too, but it's not physically being reciprocated.
Yes.
So for him, it's, you'd understand that would really get in his head. And especially with that background of having grown up with purity culture, he thinks he's over it. I think if you'd have met him at the beginning of the book, just in a coffee shop and ended up chatting to him, and you just asked him the question, like, do you think you have any problems with sex? He'd be like, absolutely not, none at all. But her shame spotlights his. And her journey of being brave enough to go to therapy and to open that door and to start trying to see what's behind the door pushes his door open.
Yeah.
And his tension is like, he does not want the door open.
Doesn't.
He's like got one of those little door stops on the other side. And it creates all of this tension and all of these. I don't know necessarily that it is misunderstanding or miscommunication and more misalignment.
Yeah.
And there's one pivotal argument that they have. And so much of it is about her being like, be angry at me, be angry at me. I'm never angry because I've been playing the good girl. I've decided I actually want to show up and live life as a human and find my voice. So that means that I'm going to have to be angry. And this is really scary for me.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you that I'm angry at you. And I know you're angry. I can see it. When you can see someone is and they're just being like, no, it's fine. No, it's fine. No, it's fine. And you're like, tell me.
Yes.
And I think for the way that men are socialized, well, we have this idea, don't we, that feminism is for women. It's not. Feminism is for everyone because the way that men are socialized is causing obviously very, very high rates of suicide in men because partly they're not able to express their feelings. And we see that in him. He can't be angry because it will make him bad.
Yeah.
Just as much as Sarah feels that way. And he also can't desire because that makes him bad too. The reality is that he is both angry and horny. And he doesn't know what to do with either of them.
It's not a good cocktail, is it?
No, it's not. And she is too, but it's coming out in different ways.
Yeah.
And also the same way, which is confronting for them. There's a lot of tension in a lot of different ways, I feel.
I mean, he quite literally shuts the door on that conversation. He goes, no, not dealing with that. Let's shut that right down. Yeah, I was really rooting for them. I was really rooting for them. Did you get frustrated by the choices they were making?
Did I get frustrated? Yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, in my first draft, I think I made it all a bit too nice and made them a bit too not frustrating, like a bit too perfect. Like Sarah behaved in much more clued up ways, like she'd already had therapy, and he was kind of the perfect boyfriend, and it needed that tension. So
Yeah.
like a lot of the redrafting was like needing that like conflict and what they don't say and what they're feeling and what they're thinking and what they're not saying, which is why it was really helpful to then put Miles's point of view chapters
Yes.
in later drafts.
I mean, it's really interesting that you chose to include his POV because we don't see too much of him, but we see kind of enough to understand where he's coming from. Because I think otherwise we would just be like, what is this guy's deal? Like, why is he being like this? And actually, when you hear from his perspective, you kind of gain a bit of understanding. You could be like, okay, fair. Like, I'm not gonna be as quick to judge him, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, I was hesitant. I was hesitant to include his point of view
Yeah.
because I didn't want to take any of the light or any of the voice away from her. But I really do think it makes it a better book, which was a great note from my editor because it also creates more empathy for her.
Yeah.
I think so. My worry is that it would take her voice away. It actually gives it back to her, I think, because we get to see her and her struggles through someone else. When we're
Yeah.
in her head all the time, it is, as you said, use the word frustrating to like
Yeah.
write down their decisions. It's frustrating to be in this constant loop, this never-ending loop and cycle of anxiety and rumination. And I think it's helpful to see her from someone else's eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. I am aware that we are coming up to time, but I really, really want to ask you about the place that Sarah often frequents with her friends, which sounds like my absolute dream venue, which is the library club. So it's a bookshop, a brunch spot, and a bar by night.
Is this not everyone's dream to open a place like that?
Absolute dream.
Yeah. Yeah. It's partly based on Book Bar
Love.
in Islington. So it's not a brunch spot.
It's not a brunch spot. What's going on, Bubba?
Book Bar is not a brunch spot, so we have taken the food out of it. And because I am obsessed with food, I obviously had to put brunch in there. But I had this very like clear idea, but like I said, I'm a very visual person.
Yeah.
I needed to see it, I needed to know where it existed. And it came up on my socials that this new place had opened called Book Bar in Islington, which is where Sarah lives. And it was a bar bookshop.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely stunning. And I had a very, 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 very special moment a couple of weeks ago where I went in and I found Overspill on the shelves there and like got to sign the paperback.
Oh.
Had a little cry.
I
Had a little,
love that. It's
yeah.
such a gorgeous spot, honestly. I'm based in Manchester, but I think I had an audition in London and I was like, I'm gonna take myself for a treat afterwards. I'm gonna go and visit Book Bar. And I just sat and had a coffee on my own outside and I got to look at all the books and it was just I was like, I need this here. And it's just been announced that there's a bookshop that's expanding in Manchester that's going to have a bar as well and do events and stuff like that. So I'm
Perfect. Have to
very
come.
happy about that. Yes. Oh my God, please, let's go on a date.
Yeah.
But before I let you go, I do like to finish by asking if there is a piece of advice that you would pass on to other authors working on their debut.
Yeah. There are so many things to say.
Hmm.
Okay, let me give two quick ones. One, try and find a network and a community of people who are going through it. Two, you'll need it. Not a very transparent industry and at the same time can be very competitive. If you can
Yeah.
find people who aren't competitive, who will genuinely be your friends and you'll be able to be transparent about the experience, that will likely save you.
Yeah.
Hard to come by, but I hope for that for debut authors. And also, maybe if you're a bit like Sarah and you have a bit of a good girl thing
Mhm.
and get everything right and find setting boundaries and having a voice difficult, the whole point of writing is having a voice.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can be quite hard to navigate. So I noticed actually in a therapy session that author and authority have the same word in it. So
Hmm.
made up of the word author. And you are allowed to write what you want, to say what you want, to push back on what you need to push back on. And you wrote it. So whilst there are so many very valid things that go on in the industry when it comes to marketing and blah, 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 and editing and everything, you are allowed to have a say
Hmm.
because the work doesn't exist if you hadn't written it and you have some authority over it.
I needed to hear
Those
that today.
you. There you go. Authority allowed boundaries. It's really
Yeah,
hard. It's really hard.
it's really hard
But
because you
yeah,
want the thing so much and you feel like anything you do to like push back or anything like that or set boundaries, it feels like, oh, that's going to push them away.
exactly. They'll think I'm a diva and they won't want to
Yeah.
work with you anymore. this thing that gets in your head, like they're going to cancel the contract. They're going to cancel the contract if I say anything. If I say anything I need, if I say anything that I want. Okay, so what if they do? Isn't it better to be safe and to have a voice than to be stuck in something that means that you're not allowed what you need? Exactly. Same goes for relationships. That's basically what Overspill maybe is about as well.
It's such an incredible book, and I really want to talk to more people about it. So for the listeners, I will be popping a link in the show notes to grab yourselves a copy of Overspill. Go do that, and I will also pop a link in the show notes to go give Charlotte a follow, and also to watch her short film Chronic, which is also amazing, and I really, really love that film. What would you like to recommend to the listeners to leave us with?
Ooh, like any media.
It can be anything. It can be books, TV, films, podcasts, anything goes.
Okay, I'm going to give the Overspill the Overspill vibe recommendation.
Great.
Okay, so the TV show is Dying for Sex.
So good.
So underrated and absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then the films are Before Sunrise.
I haven't watched it.
Oh my gosh, you need to. It's a trilogy. First one, they're all actually amazing. The first one is called Before Sunrise, and I watched it when I was editing the book to try and get that, what I call philosophical chemistry between Miles and Sarah. It's just two people walking around Vienna over 24 hours, having conversations and kind of falling in love. It's perfect. And then the Outrun, Sorry Baby, How to Have Sex, and If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You are 4 films about women navigating mental health and consent.
Amazing. Amazing. I think I've only watched the Outrun out of all of those. So I've got all of those to look forward to. Love that. It's my Saturday night sorted. Charlotte, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I've absolutely loved chatting to you. And there's so much more I could have spoken about because, yeah, this book, I mean, for any book clubs out there, there's so much to unpack with this book. I feel like, yeah, everyone go read it and talk about it. But thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you for having me.
And for listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to rate, review and subscribe. As I said, go give Charlotte a follow, go buy Overspill. And you can follow us at A Pair of Bookends Pod on Instagram and at A Pair of Bookends on TikTok. That is all we've got time for. Thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.